Ever since the shooter in Nashville, Tennessee entered a Christian private school and shot it up with 150 rounds, murdering 3 teachers at the school, all of whom were either 60 or 61 years of age, and murdering 3 school children along with them, all of whom were 9, there has been a very pronounced and noticeable and bizarre lack of interest and curiosity in getting hold of the shooter's manifesto, which we heard almost immediately they had left as an explanation for why they ended up going into the school and randomly shooting people that they didn't know. We heard that the manifesto contained explanations of the causes on whose behalf they thought they were acting and the political motives that they believed were driving them. And in general, whenever there's a shooting of this kind, a mass murder by people acting for political motives who are shooting people they don't know, the media has a party breaking down the manifesto, reporting on all of its passages, trying to assign a certain ideological label to the person who went into the shooting in order typically to discredit the ideologies they most dislike, and to even try and disgustingly blame other people in media or in politics who have never, ever once called for violence, but who have expressed views that are similar in nature to the ones cited by the shooter. That's a game that the media love to play. They love to say, this blood belongs on the doorstep of this journalist or this person with whom I disagree, because some of their views seem to have similarities or overlaps with the views expressed in the manifesto by this mass shooter. And yet, in this case, there was just almost no interest. And as a result, both the Nashville Police Department and the FBI immediately said that they refused to release the manifesto, and they had very little pressure on the part of the national media, on the part of the corporate media, to do so, because the media had no interest in finding out what this person's ideology was for obvious reasons. This was a person who declared themselves to be a trans woman. They were clearly acting in partial defense of left liberal ideology, not right-wing ideology. And their targets were in a black church in Charleston or a black supermarket in Buffalo or an LGBT bar in Colorado or a store filled with Latinos in Texas, but instead was a private Christian school in Tennessee filled with mostly white Christian students. And the dynamic and the political narrative just wasn't one that interested the media. And yet, as we reported on our show, and here was the show where we did it, we talked about how we've been stonewalled in our attempts to obtain the manifesto. This is back in April of 2023, so the month after the shooting, just a couple of weeks, in fact, after it took place. We had contacted the Nashville Police Department. We filed a FOIA request and a local FOIA request. We contacted counsel in Nashville and were told that it was unlikely we would win the lawsuit, but we decided we would proceed with it anyway. And we talked about the barriers, the strange barriers we had faced, the refusal of the police to release this manifesto, and the lack of media interest in making them do so. Over the next couple of months, though, it turned out that there were other people who had filed FOIA requests earlier, local journalists, other kinds of activists, and we heard that the release of this manifesto was imminent. That's what the police department said. That's what the FBI said. And yet they were fabricating these obviously pretextual and false reasons why they wouldn't release the manifesto. There is a provision in Tennessee law, an exception to the Freedom of Information Act requirements, that says if there's an ongoing investigation that might be jeopardized by the release of information, the police department can withhold it. Only in this case, what was to investigate? The shooter was immediately identified. There was no suggestion they had accomplices or hadn't acted alone. And the FBI and the National Police Department couldn't come up with any arguments about why there would be an ongoing investigation into the shooter that would be prejudiced or jeopardized by disclosure of this manifesto. They just obviously didn't want to release it. Here is CNN in May of 2023 reporting on some of the attempts, clearly not CNN in the media, to try and shake this manifesto out of the hands of the FBI and the Nashville Police Department. Quote, the National Police Association and the Tennessee Firearms Association separately sued after the Metro National Police Department denied open record requests for writings left by Hale, a 28-year-old former student at the Covenant School whom officers killed amid the attack. According to the plaintiffs, in denying the request, police cited a state Supreme Court ruling that found state law provides an exception to the Public Records Act by allowing police to withhold the release of information in a pending criminal case except to a defendant. Authorities already publicly have said Hale's writings show the March 27th massacre was, quote, calculated and planned. And Hale scouted a possible second attack location, had, quote, considered the actions of other mass murderers, and, quote, acted totally alone. So once they determined that Hale had acted totally alone, there was no reason whatsoever, other than improper political ones, to hide the contents of this manifesto. One, as I said, that the media and every other similar case treats as a matter of great public interest. And it's now been 7 months since the shooting and the death of those teachers and students, and the pressure by some people to try and get that manifesto. And we haven't seen any of it. And all of that changed on Monday when the online host, Steven Crowder, who has a show on Rumble, also one on YouTube, posted on Twitter and on his Rumble show pages of what he said had been leaked, parts of the manifesto. And very quickly, the Nashville Police Department confirmed that those are, in fact, authentic excerpts from this manifesto that Crowder had obtained and then published. Here from Newsweek on November 6th, Nashville Shooters Manifesto released by Steven Crowder, what we know. Quote, in a video posted Monday to YouTube, Crowder said the manifesto was leaked and shared screenshots of portions of the document, which was believed to be the work of Audrey Hale, 28, whom authorities identified as the shooter. They also said Hale, who died at the scene, once attended the school. Quote, the ongoing investigation into the March 27th murders of 6 persons inside the Covenant School continues to show, from all information currently available, that the killer, Audrey Hale, acted totally alone, the Metro Nashville Police Department said in a press release in April. Now, here is Steven Crowder. This is what he posted on Twitter, on X, on November 6th. Breaking, Nashville School Covenant shooter Audrey Hale's Death Day manifesto targeted, quote, crackers with, quote, white privileges. And here are some of the phrases that appeared in the manifesto. Quote, want to kill all you little crackers. I hope I have a high death count. I'm ready. I hope my victims aren't ready to die. So that obviously provides some insight into the ideology motivating the shooting. They were ranting and raving against the privilege of Christian students, of white students, against white privilege, against white crackers. That's something we should have known from the start, for the same reason that the media talks about the manifestos and motives of the other shooters. Here you see excerpts of the page that Crowder posted that contained those writings. Now here, the local newspaper, The Tennessean, on November 7th, that was yesterday, published this article, Nashville Shooter Writings, what MNPD Chief John Drake says about unauthorized release. Quote, I am greatly disturbed by today's unauthorized release of 3 pages of writings from the Covenant shooter, said Drake in a release. That obviously confirms the authenticity of those pages, that there were in fact a leak. Crowder didn't invent them. Someone else didn't invent them. They were actual pages from the manifesto that the police, for whatever reasons, continue to conceal. Quote, this police department is extremely serious about the investigation to identify the person responsible. That's their excuse for not releasing this. Even though they've been saying from the start they know exactly who did it, the person they killed. And they know they acted alone. Quote, Drake said the release of the document showed a total disregard for Covenant families, as well as the court system, which have currently have control of the shooter's journals due to litigation filed earlier this year. Quote, we are not at liberty to release the journals until the courts rule, he said. Our police department looks forward to the ultimate resolution of the litigation concerning the journals. Here is Fox 17, the local affiliate, also yesterday. Graphic writings left behind by the Covenant School mass shooter leaked, reigniting debate. Quote, social media photos claiming to show some of the writings by the Covenant shooter, Audrey Hale, are authentic, Fox 17 News has confirmed through a source. So Fox was able to independently confirm what the police department obviously confirmed in that statement, which is that these pages are in fact authentic excerpts from the manifesto left behind by the shooter. Now, immediately almost, upon Crowder posting these excerpts that he wanted the public to read, for the same reason the media reports on these manifestos in every other case, the platforms on which he appears, Facebook, or rather Instagram and YouTube, removed the content, blocked him from reporting it, censored this reporting on the manifesto left by the shooter. Here's from Newsweek today. Nashville shooter manifesto released by Steven Crowder removed from YouTube. Quote, according to a Tuesday post to X, formerly Twitter, by Crowder, YouTube removed the video containing clippings of the manifesto because it violated the platform's guidelines. In a screenshot shared by Crowder, which appears to resemble an email sent by a YouTube representative, he was told that the platform's guidelines, quote, prohibit linking to content containing manifestos from individuals who have committed violent attacks, including the tragic event that took place in Nashville, Tennessee in February 2023. YouTube removed our video exposing the Nashville shooter's manifesto, Crowder wrote on X, with the screenshot of the email, quote, this is why we stream to Rumble. He continued, you determine what matters. You determine the content, not YouTube, not the rest of Big Tech, not their lackeys, not a gaggle of sponsors who don't have the balls to stand up behind the kind of content you actually want to see. Now, maybe YouTube does have a policy of that kind, but in the past, we've always learned about the content of manifestos. We heard all about the manifesto of the shooter in Buffalo, who went into a grocery store deliberately in a predominantly African-American community and shot 10 black people dead. We heard about the manifesto of the mass murderer who entered 2 mosques in New Zealand a couple of years ago. These are always publicized. These are always reported on. Here is Crowder today on X. Breaking, Instagram just removed the photos of the Nashville manifesto from my page. And he has screenshots there saying your post is removed, it violates community guidelines, we don't allow people to share symbols, praise or supported people and organizations who we define as dangerous. And this includes people praising a terrorist attack. Obviously, he wasn't doing any of that. So just think about this. He got a hold of something that is plainly in the public interest, that people have a right to know and an interest in knowing. And Big Tech decided you're not allowed to see that. Thankfully, Elon Musk bought X in part to defy censorship collusion of this kind, and Rumble exists to ensure that people are able to report things that they want to report without Rumble executives sitting in judgment of what people should see or hear and what people shouldn't. An absolutely crucial value for a platform to have. Because look at what would have happened had Big Tech maintained that monopoly, had the old regime been in charge of Twitter. Is certainly they would have joined Google and Facebook in censoring this, and most people would have been prevented from hearing about what this manifesto contains. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.